On April 17, 2023, in the affluent community of Riverton Lake, authorities responded to a 911 call at the lakeside mansion of Dorothy Beaumont. What they discovered defied comprehension. The severed head of the 65-year-old wealthy widow rested on an antique china plate in the center of her formal dining table. Just 3 days earlier, Dorothy had married 29-year-old Pastor Kendrick Brown in a ceremony that shocked the community. The pastor was immediately arrested, his DNA under her fingernails, his fingerprints on the murder weapon. But, as investigators would soon discover, nothing about this gruesome case was what it initially seemed. Riverton Lake, an exclusive enclave nestled along Georgia's picturesque coastline, represents the pinnacle of southern affluence. With median home prices exceeding $1.2 million and private docks dotting its shoreline, the community has long been a haven for Atlanta's business elite seeking waterfront retirement properties and generational wealth preservation. In January 2023, the arrival of Pastor Kendrick Brown to lead the local congregation raised few eyebrows initially. At 29, Brown brought impressive credentials, a master's degree from a prestigious seminary and a reputation for modernizing traditional worship services. Community members described him as articulate, handsome, and notably ambitious for someone so young in church leadership. He seemed like exactly what our aging congregation needed, one church member later told investigators. Someone who could connect with younger families while still respecting our traditions. Not everyone welcomed Brown's arrival. Deacon Luther Coleman, who had served the congregation for over 3 decades, had expected to receive the leadership position himself. Security cameras would later capture Coleman's visible disappointment during Brown's introduction ceremony, a detail that would become significant as events unfolded. The intersection between Pastor Brown and Dorothy Beaumont occurred on February 28, 2023, through circumstances no one could have anticipated. Traffic camera footage captured the moment Dorothy's Mercedes rear-ended Brown's modest sedan at a stoplight on Lakeside Drive. According to police reports, Dorothy appeared disoriented at the scene, attributing the accident to sudden dizziness, the first documented instance of symptoms that would later prove critically important. Rather than expressing anger over his damaged vehicle, Brown showed immediate concern for Dorothy's well-being. Security footage from Dorothy's 8,000-square-foot lakefront mansion shows Brown driving her home that afternoon, helping her inside and leaving approximately 40 minutes later. What began as an act of kindness evolved with remarkable speed. Over the next 6 weeks, Dorothy Beaumont, widow of Raymond Beaumont, whose shipping company had generated a $14 million estate, was increasingly seen in Brown company. The 36-year age gap between them generated significant community speculation. Dorothy's children, Terrence Beaumont and Monique Beaumont Harris, reacted with immediate hostility to the relationship. Cell phone records show Terrence called his mother 17 times in the week after their first public appearance together. Social media posts from Monique referenced gold-digging vultures and predatory men targeting vulnerable widows. The background of Dorothy's children revealed potential motives for their concern beyond protective instincts. Financial records indicated Terrence had accumulated gambling debts exceeding $300,000 at various Atlanta casinos. His investment firm had lost several major clients in the preceding year. Meanwhile, Monique's spending far exceeded her documented income as an interior designer. Bank records would later reveal she had been forging her mother's signature on checks for amounts ranging from $5,000 to $25,000 since 2021. On April 14, 2023, Dorothy Beaumont and Pastor Kendrick Brown married in a small ceremony at her lakeside estate. Wedding photographs show a beaming Dorothy in an elegant cream suit beside Brown in a traditional black tuxedo. The guest list included only 24 attendees. Notably absent were Dorothy's children, though security footage shows them parked outside the property during the ceremony. The wedding reception video, recovered from the photographer's cloud storage, captures several concerning moments. Terrence appearing intoxicated while watching from the property's edge. Monique methodically photographing every attendee, and Deacon Luther Coleman engaging in an intense conversation with both siblings near the boat dock. 3 days later, Dorothy Beaumont would be found dead in one of the most disturbing crime scenes detectives have ever seen. The 3 days following Dorothy Beaumont and Pastor Kendrick Brown wedding passed without incident, according to all available surveillance and witness accounts. Neighbors reported seeing the couple walking along the lakefront on April 15th. Credit card records show they dined at an upscale Riverton Lake restaurant that evening. Security footage captured Dorothy visiting her physician on April 16th, without Brown accompanying her, a detail that would later prove significant. On the morning of April 17, 2023, Pastor Brown left the Beaumont estate very early according to the property's security system. Traffic cameras tracked his vehicle to Riverton Memorial Hospital, where he visited Sister Coretta Williams, an elderly church member recovering from hip replacement surgery. Hospital security footage confirmed his arrival at 8:12 a.m. and his departure at 9:37 a.m. The pastor stopped for gas at 9:52 a.m., with station cameras clearly documenting his presence. At 10:17 a.m., Brown returned to the Lakeside estate. The home's security system recorded his entry through the front door, followed 7 seconds later by a single distressed shout. At 10:18 a.m., Brown placed a 911 call, his voice described by the dispatcher as nearly incomprehensible with shock. First responders arrived at 10:26 a.m. to find Brown on the front lawn, visibly in distress. Inside, they encountered a scene that veteran officers would later describe as meticulously staged to maximize psychological impact. In the formal dining room, Dorothy Beaumont's severed head rested on an antique Limoges china plate, a wedding gift from her first marriage, centered perfectly on the mahogany table where the couple had hosted their intimate wedding reception days earlier. The placement appeared deliberate, with Dorothy's face positioned toward the main entrance, ensuring it would be the first thing visible upon entering the room. Investigators found the remainder of Dorothy's body in the master bedroom upstairs. She had been redressed in the suit worn during her wedding, positioned on the bed with hands folded across her chest. The positioning wasn't random, noted the case report. This was a crime scene deliberately choreographed to tell a story, specifically a story implicating the new husband. Evidence technicians recovered what appeared to be the murder weapon, a high-end Japanese chef's knife from the kitchen's block set, from the garbage disposal unit. Despite apparent attempts to clean it, the knife retained traces of Dorothy's blood and, critically, Pastor Brown fingerprints. Additional evidence mounting against Brown included his DNA under Dorothy's fingernails, suggesting a struggle. No signs of forced entry, indicating Dorothy likely knew her killer. Blood spatter on a shirt found in Brown guest suite bathroom hamper. Brown apparent financial motivation. Dorothy's estate was valued at approximately $14 million. By 2:45 p.m. on April 17th, detectives had taken Brown into custody. Booking photographs show him in a state of apparent shock, unresponsive to basic questions during processing. His initial statement, recorded at the Riverton Lake Police Department, consisted primarily of repeated denials and expressions of disbelief. "I loved Dorothy. I could never harm her," Brown stated in his initial interview. "Someone is trying to frame me." The blood spatter analysis from the bedroom indicated the attacker was left-handed, while Brown was documented as right-handed in all available video footage. The security system showed no evidence of Brown entering the master bedroom during the estimated time of death. As Brown was formally charged with first-degree murder on April 19th, the evidence against him appeared overwhelming to outside observers. The prosecutor's office announced they would seek the maximum penalty, citing the heinous and premeditated nature of the crime. Yet even as Brown was denied bail and remanded to custody, investigators continued examining inconsistencies that suggested the seemingly straightforward case might contain layers of deception no one had anticipated. As Pastor Kendrick Brown awaited trial from his jail cell, the investigation into Dorothy Beaumont's murder began revealing layers of deception extending far beyond the grisly crime scene. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source: Dorothy's own medical records. During a standard evidence review, investigators discovered a folder in Dorothy's home office labeled Medical Private. Inside were diagnostic reports from 3 separate specialists, all consulted within weeks of her meeting Brown. Each contained variations of the same devastating conclusion: Stage 4 pancreatic cancer, with an estimated survival timeframe of 3 to 6 months. This revelation initially appeared to support the prosecution's theory that Brown had married Dorothy knowing her imminent death would grant him access to her fortune. However, the post-mortem examination conducted by the medical examiner contained a stunning contradiction. Dorothy Beaumont showed no physical evidence of pancreatic cancer or any other terminal illness. The discrepancy was immediate and significant, noted the medical examiner's report. Despite medical records indicating advanced cancer, the pancreas showed no tumors or abnormalities consistent with stage 4 disease. This contradiction prompted investigators to order comprehensive toxicology screening beyond standard protocols. The results, delivered on April 26th, fundamentally altered the trajectory of the investigation. Dorothy's tissue samples contained elevated levels of arsenic, not a single fatal dose, but evidence of consistent exposure over approximately 3 months. The timing aligned precisely with the onset of her cancer symptoms, documented in her personal calendar: increasing fatigue beginning in late January, unexplained weight loss in February, and the disorientation that caused her initial accident with Brown in late February. Forensic toxicologists confirmed that chronic arsenic poisoning can present symptoms remarkably similar to pancreatic cancer, including abdominal pain, weight loss, fatigue, and cognitive impairment. The poison had been administered in doses small enough to avoid immediate detection, but large enough to create symptoms that would convince doctors of a cancer diagnosis, particularly when paired with falsified lab results that investigators now suspected had been substituted in her medical file. This discovery cast the case in an entirely new light. If Dorothy had been systematically poisoned, Brown's motive disappeared. The terminal wife he supposedly married for financial gain wasn't terminally ill at all, but rather the victim of a calculated poisoning designed to appear as natural illness. While this revelation raised questions about Brown's culpability, physical evidence still placed him at the center of the investigation. However, detectives identified additional inconsistencies that could not be easily dismissed. The blood spatter analysis from the bedroom where the murder occurred indicated the attacker was left-handed, based on the directional pattern of blood droplets and the angle of initial strikes. All available video evidence of Brown, including church services and security footage, confirmed he was distinctly right-handed. The investigation took another critical turn when detectives executed a search warrant at Terrence Beaumont's residence on April 30th. Inside his garage workshop, forensic technicians discovered trace amounts of arsenic compounds in a storage container labeled Garden Supplements. Internet search records recovered from his laptop included queries for untraceable poisons, symptoms of arsenic poisoning, and how long for arsenic to appear natural? Financial records revealed Terrence had purchased the compounds 3 months earlier through an online specialty gardening supply company, a transaction made with cash at a time when his bank accounts showed negative balances due to gambling debts exceeding $300,000. Rather than a pastor marrying a wealthy woman for financial gain, investigators now considered the possibility that Brown had unknowingly married a woman already being murdered through incremental poisoning, only to be framed for her killing when the original plan required acceleration. As one detective noted in case files, "We potentially have two crimes: a long-term poisoning interrupted by a staged homicide designed to frame an innocent man. The question becomes, who benefits most from both Dorothy's death and Brown taking the blame?" The answer would emerge from an unexpected source: the conscience of a 15-year-old girl who could no longer bear the weight of what she knew. As investigators redirected their focus to Dorothy Beaumont's family circle, a troubling picture of financial desperation and manipulation emerged. Bank records revealed the extent of Terrence Beaumont's financial collapse: 3 investment properties in foreclosure, and a pending lawsuit from former clients alleging mismanagement of nearly $1.2 million in retirement funds. Forensic accountants discovered Terrence had made 11 withdrawals of exactly $9,900 each, just below the $10,000 threshold that triggers automatic banking reports, in the weeks preceding his mother's murder. These cash transactions corresponded with payments to a private lender known to have connections to organized crime in Atlanta. The financial pressure on Terrence Beaumont wasn't just significant, it was potentially life-threatening, noted one investigator's report. Sources confirmed his creditors had made explicit threats regarding repayment timelines. Monique Beaumont Harris's financial situation proved equally desperate, though manifesting differently. While maintaining an image of success through her interior design firm, business records showed the company had generated less than $40,000 in legitimate income during the previous fiscal year. Yet Monique's personal expenditures exceeded $300,000 annually, a lifestyle maintained through systematic theft from her mother. Forensic document examiners identified 17 checks with Dorothy's forged signature in the previous 11 months, totaling approximately $215,000. Security footage from Dorothy's bank showed Monique depositing several of these checks, wearing large sunglasses and scarves despite indoor bank policy prohibiting face coverings, behavior consistent with consciousness of guilt. The investigation took a crucial turn on May 3rd when detectives interviewed Monique's daughter, 15-year-old Imani Harris. Initially reluctant to speak about her family, Imani's demeanor changed dramatically when investigators mentioned potentially charging her mother with first-degree murder, which carried the possibility of life imprisonment in Georgia. According to the interview transcript, Imani revealed overhearing multiple conversations between her mother and uncle discussing plans to accelerate Mom's timeline and make it look like the pastor did it. Most significantly, Imani recalled a specific conversation in early April when Terrence told Monique that Dorothy is getting suspicious about her symptoms and that they needed to move to Plan B before she sees another specialist. The teenager's statement led investigators to school counselor Dr. Maya Patterson, to whom Imani had previously expressed concerns about her mother's behavior. Dr. Patterson's professional notes documented Imani's growing anxiety in the weeks before the murder, including a troubling entry from April 10th. Student reports overhearing mother on phone discussing using the pastor as cover, referred for additional support. With mounting evidence against the siblings, investigators executed additional search warrants on May 5th, recovering critical evidence from Monique's home office. Hidden behind a false panel in her closet, detectives discovered a journal detailing the poison administration schedule, research on arsenic symptoms, and, notably, references to collaboration with L.C. initials matching Deacon Luther Coleman. Cell phone records confirmed over 30 calls between Coleman and the Beaumont siblings in the weeks preceding Dorothy's murder. Security footage from a hardware store dated April 15th, the day after the wedding, showed Coleman purchasing items later found in Dorothy's bedroom. Specific rope matching ligature marks on her wrists, plastic sheeting used to minimize blood evidence, and the distinctive knife set from which the murder weapon originated. When confronted with this evidence, Monique Beaumont Harris broke down during interrogation on May 7th, providing a full confession that implicated both her brother and Deacon Coleman. According to the official transcript, she revealed the original plan had been to simulate Dorothy's natural death through incremental arsenic poisoning over 6 months, a timeline interrupted by Dorothy and Brown's unexpected relationship. "Mom wasn't supposed to get married," Monique stated in her recorded confession. "When she met Brown, everything accelerated. She started questioning her symptoms, talking about seeing specialists in New York. Terrence panicked when she mentioned changing her will to include Brown. That's when Luther suggested framing the pastor would solve both problems." The confession detailed how Coleman had harbored resentment against Brown since losing the pastoral position to him. He had approached the siblings after learning of their financial exploitation of Dorothy, offering to help ensure they received their inheritance, while simultaneously eliminating Brown from his church position. His religious knowledge provided the framework for staging the crime scene with symbolic elements that would implicate the pastor. According to Monique's testimony, the 3 conspirators executed their plan on April 17th. While Brown was confirmed to be visiting a church member at the hospital, Coleman and Terrence entered Dorothy's home using a key Monique had previously copied. They administered a final, fatal dose of arsenic combined with sedatives, then staged the grotesque decapitation scene designed to direct immediate suspicion toward Brown. Most disturbing was Monique's revelation about the evidence against Brown. Luther knew exactly how to plant the DNA and fingerprints. He took items from the church office, a brush with the pastor's hair, a water glass with his fingerprints. He studied forensics as a hobby for years and knew exactly how to make Brown look guilty. The calculated frame-up might have succeeded if not for the mounting forensic inconsistencies and the conscience of a 15-year-old girl who could no longer remain silent about what she knew. With confessions secured from Monique Beaumont Harris and subsequently Terrence Beaumont, investigators assembled a comprehensive timeline. Forensic evidence, financial records, and testimony revealed a plot months in the making, accelerated by unexpected developments and executed with disturbing precision. The conspiracy began in December 2022, when Dorothy Beaumont informed her children she intended to donate a significant portion of her estate to various charities rather than preserving it all for inheritance. Financial records show Dorothy had consulted with estate planners about establishing a charitable foundation that would have reduced her children's expected inheritance by approximately 60%. Facing gambling debts and lifestyle obligations they couldn't sustain, Terrence and Monique developed what they initially viewed as an undetectable plan. Beginning in January 2023, they began administering small doses of arsenic in Dorothy's regular evening tea, a ritual Monique exploited during her weekly dinners with her mother. Toxicology experts confirmed this approach would create symptoms easily mistaken for natural illness, particularly in a 65-year-old woman. The conspiracy expanded in February when Deacon Luther Coleman approached Terrence after overhearing him arguing with Dorothy about financial support. Coleman, whose theological background masked a disturbing fascination with forensic science, offered assistance in exchange for a $250,000 payment upon Dorothy's death. Money he claimed would fund a new building for the congregation, effectively advancing his standing in the church community. Cell phone location data confirmed weekly meetings between Coleman and the siblings at a storage facility registered to Monique's design company. Search warrants executed on this facility revealed a detailed planning center including medical textbooks on arsenic poisoning, research on falsifying medical records, and a timeline projecting Dorothy's natural death in August 2023. The unexpected introduction of Pastor Brown into Dorothy's life in late February fundamentally disrupted their timeline. The most damning evidence emerged from Coleman's meticulous journals, recovered from a hidden compartment in his church office. These writings detailed how he collected Brown DNA. Forensic analysis confirmed the method used to transfer Brown fingerprints to the murder weapon, a technique using adhesive film and talcum powder that Coleman had learned from a forensic textbook found in his possession. The conspirators accelerated their plan on April 10th, when Dorothy mentioned to Monique her intention to seek a second medical opinion at a renowned cancer center in New York. This discovery likely triggered the conspirators' decision to move immediately to what Coleman had termed Plan B in his notes. The actual murder occurred with methodical precision. Coleman and Terrence arrived at Dorothy's estate early morning on April 17th, entering through the guest house door using a key copied from Monique's set. Medical examiner reports confirmed Dorothy was already deceased before decapitation, having been administered a fatal dose of arsenic combined with sedatives. The positioning of her body parts represented what Coleman described in his notes as ritual elements that would implicate a religious zealot, specifically suggesting a corrupt pastor with secret, extreme beliefs. What the conspirators hadn't anticipated was the forensic inconsistency their staging would create. The blood spatter analysis, which clearly indicated a left-handed attacker, contradicted Brown's right-handedness, an oversight in their otherwise meticulous planning. As one investigator noted in court documents, the conspiracy wasn't just about killing Dorothy Beaumont, it was about destroying Pastor Brown completely. The staged scene was designed to suggest that beneath his respectable exterior lurked a monster capable of ritual murder for financial gain, precisely what the actual killers themselves were. The final piece of evidence that completed the tragic puzzle of Dorothy Beaumont's murder emerged on May 12, 2023, when investigators discovered a hidden compartment in her antique writing desk. Inside, Dorothy's personal journal contained entries spanning the 3 months before her death, documenting her growing suspicion that her deteriorating health wasn't natural. "Something isn't right with these symptoms," she wrote on April 8th. "They appear after time with Terrence or Monique, then fade when I'm alone. I've started discarding tea they prepare and have felt marginally better. I fear what this might mean." On September 18, 2023, a jury found Terrence Beaumont, Monique Beaumont Harris, and Deacon Luther Coleman guilty of first-degree murder, conspiracy, and attempted framing of an innocent person. Each received life sentences without possibility of parole. Pastor Brown, fully exonerated, was released after spending 24 days in jail for a crime he didn't commit. Dorothy's final acts of both love and justice manifested through her estate. Despite never completing her planned will change, her attorney confirmed the validity of a handwritten codicil found in the hidden desk compartment. This document directed the majority of her estate to establish a foundation for elder protection, with Brown appointed as its director. The foundation now works with law enforcement nationwide to investigate suspicious deaths of elderly individuals. In its first year, the organization has helped solve 11 cases of elder homicide that might otherwise have been classified as natural deaths. Dorothy's journal concluded with words that now appear on the Foundation's headquarters. "Truth finds its way to light, even when buried beneath perfect deception.